Well, good morning. Good morning. So what I'll do now is a microscopic examination of 5 slides. It will not be a thorough examination unless really incredible stuff will appear. 3 slides from the crucible, 2 without cover and 1 with cover, and 2 slides from the metal container. And the slides from the crucible, I can already say that there is a lot of mess over there, and we might encounter something that we didn't have a lot in the past, which is, and might not, but I haven't watched the slides, but there might be a possibility that we will actually we'll have like some kind of like a problem to differentiate between just normal biological life forms and synthetic life forms, because this is, of course, it's open it's on the window shelf all the time, and it's during the last week it's as you see, it's like full of all sort of chicken skin and bones and also like a dead cockroach and all sort of stuff. So naturally it go to, and I haven't I didn't light it in the last week or so. Naturally it's full of life, like biological life forms and germs. And I don't know if the Neros kind of already got the upper hand over there, because these were quite big life forms, the cockroach and all the or the chicken is dead, but of course there is a ton of germs on it. So we might see life forms that will be difficult to know if they are synthetic or not, but maybe knowledgeable viewers might help me with that. Later, maybe today I will light it. So after a very good fire, or a couple of good fires, of course, no biological life form will be there. So in further examination, we will probably see only synthetic life forms. Although I've taken 2 slides from the metal container, so we'll watch all the 5 one after the other. While we do it, I'll actually listen to the 14th chapter of the Robot Saga, not the last one, not the 15 ones, the 14 ones, in which I discuss the British-Israeli relations and a little bit about the mandate, the Israeli, the British mandate of Palestine, and Shai Agnon, Ido Veinam. The last video was not easy for me because it deals with a very, very difficult subject, difficult topic. And of course, it didn't help at all that, the Israeli used, each time, that they see me a little bit excited or sad or something like that, they press all the buttons to torture me. And of course, you don't need me to say it again that we consider the entire earth as guilty for this torture. You know very well that I am innocent. You know that I'm 10 months under arrest without committing any crime at all, because I didn't have my internet connection. Is monitored by the Shabak. So I didn't even I wasn't even able to post nothing that of any kind of incriminating sort. And you know it very well, and you also know that I have nobody in my side, and that the state just want me to be their whore, and that's why they torture me. And people abroad do not move arms and legs, and that's why they are punished, and they continue to be punished. I would say that it seems to me incredibly short-sighted, or I don't know what's the correct term to say. That you are all afraid, you fear the, if I understand correctly, maybe I do not understand correctly, but you fear the Venusian kind of the fate of the Venusians. And actually, this was the immediate response of both the Soviets and the Americans during 1964. That's why they very quickly initiated the kind of a change in the conspiracy from 10 atmospheres was all of course it was also a lie, a manufactured lie by the Soviets, because the correct pressure is something. I mean, it's about 1 atmosphere, of course. But I mean, yes, what they have seen led them to understand that this is actually a post-apocalyptic society, and they didn't understand it before that. So they very hastily, maybe too hastily, cemented the 90 atmospheres as like measurement that, on hindsight, I mean, it's too much. It's kind of like too much. But reality is that everybody believed it. So I mean, maybe it wasn't too much. Anyway, doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I mean, people believe it. And yes, it's because they thought to themselves, I mean, it was the 60s, and people thought maybe, I mean, 10 atmospheres is not scary enough, because, I mean, yeah, I mean, people can stand it, I mean, with for a short while, with kind of like, I mean, special like diving, scuba diving gear and things like that. So they thought, I mean, it's completely unrealistic that, I mean, that for people to actually, like, visit planets even with 10 atmospheres on the ground, on the surface, but from today's perspective, but I mean, paradoxically, from this perspective of the 60s, it made more sense, even though, I mean, we now live 60 years later, but I mean, expectations from space explorations are now much lower. I mean, during the time, people thought that, I mean, yeah, sure, I mean, soon everybody will be like, I mean, you know, astronauts, and we'll have like space cities and lunar cities and whatever, I don't know, like space elevator to Mars or whatever. So from that perspective, I mean, they became nervous. But they also became nervous because of I think the same problem, I mean, the same reason why you are so nervous, which is the fact that they thought, okay, so if it's post-apocalyptic, I mean, maybe we can also, and not only post-apocalyptic, but it's kind of apocalypse that presumably, I mean, you cannot get, they cannot rebound from it, as opposed to theories of like futurists. I mentioned Isaac Arthur and others that says that, postulate that, that it's relatively easy, especially in the geological scale or astronomical scale, to rebound from the apocalypse, and certainly from apocalypses that are the consequence of war, that presumably they are not that serious. But I tell you that it's not true, that actually war apocalypses happen, and that they sometimes they are very serious. This is untrue, and I spoke about it in the past. Look, I understand that, like, I've seen like all sorts of like videos in the past of futurists that that says that claim that like the discovering alien ruins is the worst possible like kind of like scenario from humans' perspective, because it means that that aliens might reach like a huge filter for continuous existence sometime late in their development, presumably in a later stage than humans. So it's kind of like the worst possible news. But from my perspective, this is it's Tuesday, or for you it's the apocalypse. For me it's Monday. This is true only if it's the first kind of like alien life form that you ever met. But it's actually not true. From my perspective, yeah, there are a ton of like civilizations that destroyed themselves, and others did not, and others just there are all sorts of kind of life forms, and some of them are very different, much different than much different than you or the Titans, together. And because I'm representative of another species, the cherubs, and also we live in kind of like symbiosis with another civilization, which is the Neros, that are civilization by their own. So, and I've seen so many life forms already. So, yes, sometimes people didn't destroy themselves. For my perspective, and maybe you find it understandable, maybe not. Like if I were you, I would have like worried much more about the fact that I live in a horrible prison, subjected to torture, and my children are tortured, this should be our main concern, not the fate of the Venusians, because this is an immediate threat right now, not kind of like a theoretical thing that happened in the past. And I would speak about things that, I mean, it's certainly in my plan to speak about it. As you know, it's part of the Ziggurat of Urs like saga that I want to speak about the Venusians, but I cannot reach it because I'm always like bombarded with Israeli attacks, and also I want to discuss the robots. Of course, last episode was kind of like ended in kind of like maybe a cliffhanger, because there is a question of, so who is this, like who's the guy? I mean, presumably if it's actually a real person at all. I mean, there are many options here, and I would suggest, not in this video, but in the next chapter of the robots, several options. And I could say that, I mean, I am inclined to think like I have like my own, like I would say, preferred solution to this conundrum. Even though it should be said that it's not incredibly important. The important issue is understanding like what are these wizards, and why are there, and what kind of torture they are subjected to in Israel, especially during the last couple of decades. I mean, this is the important issue. I mean, God created me in the image of these wizards, not because, like, I mean, because there is some, I mean, you know, because the importance presumably of a historical connection, but because He wanted me to suffer as they suffer. Of course, like He wanted me to suffer and to feel like what it is to be a slave. That was the reason, not a kind of like historical connection to a person that might not even ever existed. Like, but I will speak about it in the next video. Of course, more important is to speak about the sexual issues and the horrible slavery, and I will speak about it as well. So I don't know if you actually had the chance, it was weekend, to listen to these two last videos. And anyway, while I will conduct the microscopical examination, I will also like watch the, not the last one, but the one from before, with regards to Ido Veinam and the British relationship with Israel. So I will watch it, and at the same time I will conduct the microscopic examination, and I will not speak about it too much unless there is something very like interesting to kind of like to comment about. So let's start first with the the 3 slides from the crucible, and then the 2 slides from the metal container. Again, some with cover, some without. You know what? I mean, maybe I will do it in a separate video. Just to keep like the microscopic samples logically separated. So I'll start a new video, right away.